So Malaysia, what was it like having a U.S. Senator teach class?
It was very enlightening because I'm very interested in politics and I watch the news a lot. So to have somebody who works in politics and works related to the president, for me to talk to him and ask him questions, it was really fun.
What did you think, Trey?
I thought it was a great experience being with the senator in a classroom. I would never expect that, but I think that this experience will be great for me wanting to go to law school, and yeah, I just think it's a great experience for us in 8th grade to be with a senator in a classroom.
And Sophia, was it what you would expect from a senator to teach?
It was not. He was really good at it. I mean,
You were expecting him not to be good?
not necessarily, but he was like, it felt like he belonged in the classroom.
And why was that?
Well, I mean, he was just teaching like a teacher, you know. Some people get up there and they're just talking, but he was like telling us almost like it was a story.
Yeah. What did you think, Dylan?
I thought it was really an amazing experience, and like to be talking to a real life senator, like this guy, this is his job. Like he's working up there with some of these really big guys in the name of politics, and he is his own, like Senator John Kennedy, like that's a big name for us in Louisiana, and so it was really neat to be able to see him like in the flesh and to talk to him. I shook his hand, like that's just an amazing experience to me.
And Malaysia, you said you're really interested in politics. What interests you about politics? Do you want to go into politics?
Well, for most of my life, for all my life, really, I've wanted to be a doctor, and I still want to be a pediatric oncologist, but politics has kind of been like a hobby for me. Ever since I was young, my dad has always watched the news with me, so it's kind of like a family thing, and yeah, so it's just something I do.
And if you had to describe politics right now, what would you say about it?
It's very divisive. It's a very tense time in America, period. That's probably why I'm so interested. Maybe sometimes I feel like I can do something about it.
Senator Kennedy went to 2 law schools, so he was a lawyer and then went into politics. Would you want to go into politics?
I really want to graduate from UGA and then go to Southern Law School, and then I want to become a judge for either Louisiana or Georgia, or I want to be a governor one day. So I'm debating, but it's half and half. I'm not sure yet.
Sure. Well, you've got a few days to figure it out.
Yeah.
But maybe by the end of the weekend, if you could get that figured out, it would be nice, and you could get back to us on that.
I probably will have it by this weekend.
Yeah.
I'm very focused.
You seem extremely focused. Sophia, what do you want to do?
I want to be a cultural anthropologist. Thank you.
And is there a particular period of time or culture that you're interested in?
I really like learning about the ancient Greeks, Romans, that kind of time period, because once we get more recent, I don't know, it just kind of seems a little bit boring. And so also, yeah, I'd like to travel the world, and I think that's a great field to do it.
So the ideas you were talking about in class today, a lot of those come from the Greeks and the Romans, who started out thinking about how you form a government and why you form a government and who you give the ideas to. Is that what interests you, or does what interests you just the way they live their lives?
You know, I'm really interested in, like, a lot of the things they were doing, that was the first that anyone had ever done that. And I think that's really interesting and scary, and it's like, and also I'm interested in like the art, because they did do a lot of art, the sculptures and stuff. And so yeah, I think just in general that time period is really interesting.
And what about you, Dylan? Would you ever want to go to Washington and be in government?
Probably not for me. I'd like to be a biologist when I grow up. Probably either an entomologist, so studying insects, or some sort of herpetologist. Like, I love salamanders. I love being out in the mountains and like with streams, and so salamanders seems like a really good species, or like an animal to be studying, to get to do all that cool field work. And I'm partly influenced because I come from a big family of biologists. So my dad studies plants, my mom studies parrots, my grandfather studies spiders, my grandmother studies wasps. So yeah, a lot of biologists in the family.
Malaysia, what makes a good teacher, and was the senator a good teacher, and if so, what makes him good?
I think a main quality that every teacher should have is to not get frustrated when students ask a lot of questions. Like Sophia can tell you, I ask the most questions every day. Yeah, so I think teachers need to be patient with their students, and I think Mr. Kennedy was pretty patient. And
You asked him a question about whether one party was in control of all branches of government.
I did.
Where did that question come from?
The current branches of government, I mean, it's the Republicans do have control of the legislative branch and the executive branch, and members of their party have the majority of the Supreme Court. So I was just, asking him because it came to my mind when he was talking about the branches of government.
Yeah, and he said that the Supreme Court
Isn't supposed to be political.
Yeah, what'd you think of that?
I agree with him when he says it's not supposed to be political. I think it is political. It's not supposed to be, but I think that the majority of the Supreme Court will vote with Republican ideals because Republicans do have a majority in the Supreme Court. So I think that they should vote fairly and be bipartisan about it, but I don't think it will happen.
Sophia, when you have a class like this and you talk about the beginnings of American government, the way it's supposed to work, the 3 branches of government, the 3 levels of government, does that feel like you're having a conversation about something that is ancient and started at the founding of America, or that that's exactly the way things work today?
I think that, well, you say ancient. I would say that the starting of America wasn't that long ago.
Sure, well, that's because you're a cultural anthropologist. But nevertheless, is it something that's happening today or happened 230 years ago?
I think it's definitely something that happens today, and you see it all the time. And when you listen to the news, and it's like, oh yeah, he's talking about 200 years ago, but he's also talking about now.
Trady, there was a lot of questions that the senator posed that were just kind of trying to get your ideas about, everything from assisted suicide to the Palestinian Liberation Organization. Was that fun, trying to figure out how government works instead of just facts and being talked at?
Yes, I did feel like it was interesting. Number one, from hearing it from him and our class and kids interacting with him and having a discussion to see how the government works and see the behind the scenes of the government.
Dylan, are you hopeful? Do you feel like they know what they're doing in Washington?
I mean, I have a lot of faith in those guys. That's their job, so I sure do hope that they're doing all they can to, protect us as Americans and do their job right.
Is your feeling like, yeah, this is all, working the way it's supposed to, the way we talk about it in school? It's all smooth running just the way they designed it, or?
No, not at all. I mean, I don't want to sound political, but, our president is using a lot of racist rhetoric and talking about certain people or certain groups of people as if he's trying to scare a part of America. And it does scare me sometimes that this is our president, the leader of the free world, talking about people, sometimes Americans, in this way. So it's definitely not normal, but I think that we've accepted it as normal. And I think that's why I'm so scared sometimes when I watch politics. So yeah, I definitely don't feel okay when I watch.
But you are still really interested in it and want to be involved in it.
Right, that's probably why I want to be involved in it, because of how much it's affected me and how I feel every day, really. So that's why sometimes I feel like I want to make a difference in politics. I actually have a cousin who is a state senator, Regina Barrow, and I went to the Capitol and I worked with her and helped around. So that was pretty fun and interesting, getting to meet different people who work there in the Capitol, and that definitely interested me, something I might want to do.
Sophia, do you talk about politics at home in your family?
Yeah, but it's not something that enthralls me quite as much as Malaysia. I think it's important for me to, and I think at some times I'm not invested in it as much as I should be because I'm a citizen. But I think I'm 13 years old. I have a little bit of time before I need to start worrying about these things, mostly because it is something that I worry about, but I don't follow it as closely as maybe I should.
You said you're a citizen. There's a lot of talk about who is a citizen and who isn't. What does it mean to be a citizen?
I think it means to love your country, to support it no matter what, and to, do your duties like voting, following the law, stuff like that.
Trey, one of the things that a number of, and you may have said it too, a lot of times in class, when the senator would say, well, what if we did this? A lot of people said, well, it'd be really controversial, which I thought was an interesting word that people kept using a lot. Do you feel like there's a lot of controversy in politics right now? Is it?
Yes, I do feel like it's a lot because many people have different opinions, and to me, politics is opinions, just different point of views, such as Republican and Democrat. Those are two different opinions because you may like the Republican or you may like the Democrat candidate. So yes, I do feel like it's opinionated and it's controversy.
Do you know where your politics are?
No, but I do agree with Democrats.
Yeah.
The Democrat Party.
And is politics something you talk about at home?
No, I really don't really discuss politics with my family because they're not that interested, but whenever we do talk about politics, I mainly talk about it in class, in my social study class, and I mainly catch up with CNN 10. So that's where I mainly talk about politics.
Yeah. And Dylan, is this a class you like, or is science and biology more something you're?
I do love science class, don't get me wrong, but yeah, ever since I came to this school, I've just absolutely loved history and social studies. I mean, in 6th grade, I had an amazing history teacher, Mr. Wall, and so yeah, it's definitely made me a lot more interested in social studies, and it's just made it a lot more fun for me.
Yeah, why is that? Is it because it's like a story? Is that like you were saying?
I think that's exactly right, and to learn like how people lived back then, and then also more into like social studies and government, how stuff works now, to kind of get that behind the scenes. Yeah, that's all really, really exciting to me.
Sophia, have you ever, I know you like to watch YouTube occasionally, have you ever sought out something to watch that was either about the early days of Greece and Rome, or about the origins of American history, something you've learned in class that then has led you to go seek out information on your own?
I wouldn't say on YouTube, more just on the internet in general. Occasionally, we have really good history teachers here at McKinley, like Dylan said, and I think that sometimes something will really grasp my attention that I'd like to look further into. But yeah, I like to keep my YouTube separate from my schoolwork.
Sure. Malaysia, you said that the president made you feel scared, or the current state of things made you feel scared. Senator Kennedy is obviously a Republican, is a supporter of the president's. How did you feel about those feelings you have about government after spending 90 minutes with him?
Well, I'm not necessarily against Republicans. It's just that for the people who won't stand up to Trump, who have that position, such as being a senator or representative, whether Democrat or Republican, if you don't stand up to Trump, I think that's a problem. So, I mean, I was asking Senator Kennedy about what he thought about things that President Trump has said. And I mean, I don't think it's, he's a bad guy. He's pretty nice.
The senator, you mean?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Trey, what would you like the senator to know that you might not have gotten a chance to tell him?
One thing that I would like for him to know, that he did an amazing job with substituting with us, and I hope he can do better and change what's going on in this world, and that Louisiana could be great.
And Dylan, what were you expecting? Were you thinking like, senator?
Yeah, I guess I didn't really know what to expect going into this. I was kind of thinking, I was pretty nervous. I was like, what are we gonna do? I didn't know what this meant, like substitute teacher. But in the end, I was really happy with what we did. I mean, getting to talk with him about like all these issues and getting to discuss and which is a thing that he does regularly with his job. So yeah, it was really interesting.
What would you want him to know, Sophia?
Quit politics. You have a talent. Go teach, preferably here. Yeah, I think you did a really good job. I was interested in government and politics, and I think that he was really good at just talking with us, like sparking our interest in what's going on here and what do you think about this. And sometimes he even changed my opinion about some things.
Oh yeah, like what?
Like the motorcycle thing with the helmets. He was saying, well, maybe you should be able to not wear a helmet because, I mean, it's your life. And that just got me thinking, and I'm not really sure where I stand on that anymore, because at first I was like, yeah, you should wear a helmet. Like, that's your safety, you should be protected. But now I'm thinking, well, it's not hurting other people.
Trey, do you go talk about politics with your friends or at school?
No, they have no idea what politics is, probably. But if I was to have a politic discussion, I'd probably have it with Malaysia, because Malaysia is very interested in that, and I would like to know more than what I know now.
Yeah. Do you talk politics with your friends, Malaysia?
I do. Usually I might bring up a topic in social studies class just for fun.
Or just
Any class, really. Yeah.
And do people, there's a lot of talk about civility in American public life right now, and things getting
Tense.
Tense, and do you guys feel that? Do you feel that things are tense in public life in America right now?
They're all at each other's throats.
Right.
What do you think about that?
Well, I think we should all remember that we're all human beings. We all have feelings, and that our opinions shouldn't necessarily divide us so much. Maybe we should stop shouting at each other and maybe, talk to each other.
Just because somebody has one opinion doesn't mean that they can't be your friends and that they're not nice people. And that's what we learned today with this talk with Senator Kennedy. He's a really nice guy, no matter what your political opinions are.
And you asked Sophia earlier what she thinks being a citizen is. And I think to be a citizen, I think being a citizen means that you want the best for your country. Maybe not necessarily to raise your status, but to help the people below you, help the people that don't have as many advantages as you have. And I think basically being a citizen means to be a brother or sister to your neighbor.
If you went home and said, or someone asked you, what happened in school today, what would you say?
I would tell them about how we learn how the government works and all the levels, federal, state, and local. And then I would tell them that I've learned how to, it's okay for people to have different opinions, and to hear it from a Republican and the stereos of a Republican, I saw that it's very different, and Republicans are not the same.
What about you, Elijah?
I would tell them that I talked to a U.S. Senator, that he brought a news station to my school, that I talked about the government and the different rights that we as citizens have, and just having different views of what it means to be a citizen and what it means to have certain rights and the rights that we are given.
What about you, Dylan?
I would say that we learned about the separation of powers between the national and state governments. We talked a lot about that, about how there are certain powers that are given to the national government, but the states still hold power as well. So it's not just like the federal government has taken all the power. And then, as Trey said, I also learned that opinions don't define who a person is. They can still just as well be your friends.
How about you?
So I think that I would say I learned that freedom of religion and expression and speech and just freedom in general, it's so complicated. And it's not just making laws, it's not just this clean-cut thing. Like in the Constitution it says this, so we have to do this. Because there's so many different things, and I could honestly argue for both sides on a lot of these things that he asked us about.
That's right, it's the implied powers where it gets really sticky, yeah. Well, thank you all so much. This was really great for me.